Total War Pharaoh is getting a huge patch which fixes a lot of bugs and brings much needed balance changes. But how impactful are they? Let's dive right into the most important changes. Generals are now correctly affected by lethality. So the general's model is supposed to be immune to lethality until a certain point after the bodyguard takes enough damage, but this was not the case. If you were not lucky, you could lose your general from a random arrow or low tier unit hitting you at full strength, which, as realistic as it could be, it wasn't the best for gameplay, considering the morale debuff from a dead general is huge. Now it should be fixed so you can charge your general into the battle instead of hiding him in a forest or well behind your line. You still have to be careful, but you won't have the random one-shot early on. All two-handed weapons are getting buffed because the devs felt they were weak, but I completely disagree with this. In their current state, they are really strong if you use them correctly, and they do have counterplay. Now they're about to get a big 4 charge bonus, as well as a 2 attack and a speed buff. I feel this is unnecessary as they already do a ton of damage, and the speed buff is gonna make kiting with ranged units even more annoying. Speaking of ranged, missile units are extremely strong, so they're finally getting nerfed. The projectile spread of all ranged units is increased. This is gonna make ranged units less accurate, especially on max range, so you will notice a bit of killing power gone. The lethality of Archer and Slinger direct shot has been reduced by a third. Direct shot is basically a death sentence to anything getting hit by it in its current state, so this will also impact the killing power. Lethality is high in this mode, but you gotta remember it is reduced by armor and there's still a lot of actual damage on the missile units. Instead of relying on lethality, a more healthy nerf could have been just tapping down the armor penetration and base damage values. The new cultures added in the Dynasty update were also missing fire arrows in their archers, which was pretty bad. Sometimes you really need to burn a forest or reduce the enemy's morale, and this is a huge quality of life change. Tier 1 and 2 units had their lethality reduced by 1 to 2% respectively, which sounds funny because lethality is not the problem with these units as much as you'd think. Some of them just have ridiculous combat stats for the price. Tier 5 and 6 units, so endgame ones, are getting a 1 to 2% increase respectively. Speaking of lethality, this is another huge fix. There are some units in the game, such as the Royal units or Elite Magi Archers, that have an attribute that lets them ignore a part of the enemy's armor when calculating lethality. It wasn't working. I've even heard people say that it applied to the units themselves sometimes, which is pretty bad. Now that it's fixed, these units are about to get even more killing power. A lot of combat and unit bugs have been fixed, and here are some of the more noticeable ones, such as units losing orders even when they have vision of the enemy. I had this happen so many times with ranged units, so this is a good fix. The underdog passive would sometimes apply to enemy units somehow, and that would give them higher stats. New general abilities are finally affected by cooldown reduction, and some ranged units would get melee campaign unit buffs instead of ranged. Now it's been fixed. Phalanx formation move will also have the units properly advanced now instead of getting left behind or just weirdly blobbing up. The AI is more responsive to cavalry harassment. Alright, let's see how this one plays out. Some model and animation bugs in battles have been fixed, so this also includes zombie spear chargers, where they continue fighting without a head. I guess Bronze Age World War Z is over. Reinforcements and siege battles also have a few fixes, so a bunch of maps will have an expanded, better reinforcement deployment, and gates can't be captured from the outside. The capture point has been moved slightly inside the fort. On to the campaign. For some players, the AI was too aggressive with the anti-player bias, even on lower difficulties, so easy and normal AI will be less aggressive towards the player, with an increase in their timer before they start expanding, and their recruitment has also been reduced on easy. Now, there's a new setting in the customization options which lets you choose how aggressive the AI will be. So don't worry if you enjoy the AI trying to swarm you, that's not going away if you prefer it. Another big change is recruitment. The AI tends to recruit native units instead of the faction units, which is a big letdown. I want to fight against Assyrian or Greek units, not a full stack of Akkadian farmers or young spears most of the time. Now, faction units are valued higher by the AI, and that will absolutely lead to some more interesting battles. Also, the AI is more likely to colonize ruins now, so that's another welcome change. The barter exploit has been fixed, where you could basically abuse the AI into renewing a trade deal, even though it didn't have the resources for it. AI will correctly value legitimacy when trading now, which is huge, and some administration bugs have been fixed, such as armies spawned from the path of the Marauder legacy. A lot of campaign and building issues tackled. As an example, the global defense debuff Sea People factions got, an actual game-breaking bug, it's been eradicated. Thracians can correctly recruit the Mad Mares of Thrace from their faction buildings, and this is an extremely strong chariot unit. Sea People can build forts in Mesopotamia and the Aegean, while Mesopotamians can finally build grand temples in the Aegean. I guess it's still not too late for that vacation to Greece. Many court and legitimacy bugs have been fixed, such as legitimacy correctly decaying after battles, King of the Universe can actually annex settlements now, Sargon gets a lot of legacy fixes, and Tutmos has the annoying siege bug fixed, where your administration goes haywire and you get diplomatic contact with all factions. A lot of game-breaking bugs have been removed, a lot of small tweaks have been added, but the game still needs a couple of more patches to iron out the issues. Anyway, that's it for now. Stay tuned because there's a lot more coming, and until the next time...